So we interrupt this regularly scheduled episode of Elite Heat with breaking news. Roman Reigns, yes, WWE Universal Champion, head of the table, Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, has announced on his Instagram that he's officially parting ways with WWE to pursue a career in Hollywood. Now, where does this leave WWE? That's the big question. What will WWE do without their top cash cow, their top star, Roman Reigns? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Like, Roman Reigns has single-handedly been carrying SmackDown. Now, what is SmackDown going to be? We got a taste of what it was or in the middle of the pandemic, before Roman returned in August. We got a taste. I guess that's what we're looking at now. Roman's gone. He's going to be a star of Fast 10 with The Rock, his cousin. And yeah, and I also have exclusive footage here of Vince McMahon trying to get The Undertaker to come back to WWE right after Roman announced that he's leaving.
Oh, damn it. Oh, damn it. Oh, my God. Who do I call? Who do I call? Mark. Oh, that's all I'll call. Oh, my God. The ratings. Oh, my God. Oh, damn it, pal. Mark. We need you. We need you, pal. Damn it, pal. We need you back. Yeah, my favorite WWE superstar is, he's gone. Mark. You're gonna come back? Okay, good. Okay, well, Orlando, Florida. We need you now. We need you. Get on a private jet. We need you now. Now, Mark. Now.
It's safe to say that panic is setting in within the brass of WWE. It's Vince McMahon. Reportedly, he's been irate. He's trying to get The Undertaker back. He's trying to get Brock Lesnar back, John Cena, everyone. He's trying to get Hulk Hogan to do appearances, Steve Austin. He's really stacking the deck here because, I mean, the stocks might crash and burn for WWE without Roman Reigns.
Yep, and then we get to an episode of Monday Night Raw. So we get The Undertaker a couple of hours before Raw, hobbling into the WWE locker room. He's made it all the way from his ranch and his home. He's made it to Texas, or he's made it to the Performance Center, or wherever they do, the Thunderdome, whatever. Undertaker's made it. He walks in. He's about to enter the locker room. He knocks down the door. He bashes the door in. And the first thing he sees when he opens the door is Ricochet and Mustafa Ali filming a TikTok where they're both throwing it back. From here, Undertaker turns around, leaves. He walks to Vince McMahon's office. Undertaker proceeds to cuss out Vince McMahon. He's irate. Undertaker's yelling at Vince McMahon, saying he never wants to come back. He's sick of this. He's done. He hates this, what wrestling's become. He's sick of this. Undertaker proceeds to refuse a Hall of Fame induction, Kevin. And Undertaker demands his career footage gets taken off the network. He wants nothing to do with WWE's name or brand after seeing Ricochet and Mustafa Ali throwing it back, filming a TikTok in the locker room. From here, Taker turns to the left and he sees Shane McMahon, the boss's son, a 51-year-old man, a millionaire, multi-millionaire, 51-year-old son of Vince, playing Madden against one TJ Wilson, or Tyson Kidd. Undertaker grabs the Xbox controller, Kevin, picks it up, smashes it on the ground, breaks into 15 pieces, and from here, Shane McMahon starts crying. Mark Calloway spits on Vince McMahon and never comes back.
Yeah, we got a fun one. This is a scenario of what WWE would look like if Roman Reigns retired, so it's a little bit of a taste here. Then, yeah, we get a Bret Hart shoot interview where he's talking to Sean Oliver, one of those, kayfabe commentary episodes. He gets a big get, Bret Hart, legend, Hall of Famer. Bret Hart's talking about how The Undertaker / Mark Calloway is wrestling's only real man, and that, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Aleister Black, Cesaro, they're all weak men, and they play video games, they don't know how to work with their hands, and they wouldn't last a day in the Hart Dungeon. And then Bret Hart calls Roman Reigns a terrible top guy. Then we have Roman filming a video from a trailer. Instead, he's sitting in a makeup chair with some hot chick putting makeup on him. And he's like, you weren't half the wrestler Shawn Michaels was. You couldn't even lace Triple H's boots, and you almost single-handedly were responsible for Vince McMahon's creation being killed and being purchased by WCW because, when Bret was the top guy in the mid-90s, WCW was kicking WWE's ass, and everyone just freaks out. Twitter explodes. Roman Reigns is a god for putting the evil Bret Hart in its place because Bret Hart just tried all their favorites in AJ Styles and Rollins. It's great. I mean, Roman Reigns still making his presence felt.
Yep, you've got literally Bret Hart saying that Adam Cole needs to be WWE champion to fill the void of Roman Reigns, and that they need to push Johnny Gargano as the next guy, and we just get Roman Reigns just laughing at him in a trailer. From here, WWE, Vince McMahon, he panics. He goes and announces a superstar shakeup immediately. Okay, this superstar shakeup, among the top moves and the top acquisitions to either brand, Drew McIntyre gets moved from Monday Night Raw to Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. Then Cesaro gets moved from SmackDown to Raw, okay? This is a big move. Cesaro is paired up with Reginald. Yes, that's correct. Vince McMahon freaks and pairs Cesaro, a community favorite, with one of Vince's favorites, Reginald. So from here, we get Cesaro challenging Bob Lashley at the WrestleMania Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And we get Cesaro squashing Lashley in a 5-minute match. Cesaro squashes him and wins a certain little title. So that's all we get there.
Yeah. So yeah, then on the SmackDown side, the ratings die. Just like SmackDown on Fox ratings like at 1.2. You know, we have just segments where like Brother Love is making appearances, and we have like, you know, you got like the Miz getting slimed on by Shane McMahon, like just ridiculous segments on SmackDown. Ratings are dying. So we have Adam Pearce the next night after, you know, Roman announces whatever the next week, announces that he's gone. Adam Pearce out there, he hands Drew McIntyre the Universal Championship. Drew McIntyre gets injured in a match, and then Miz and Morrison become co-champions of the Universal title. So this is where we're at now. Legit, the top stars in wrestling are Miz, Randy Orton, and like that's pretty much it. Those are like the only two guys with any kind of mainstream recognition.
Yeah, Vince McMahon, he freaks out. He sees, oh my god, my big stars are gone, and he proceeds to give the title to Miz and Morrison. Vince, he thinks, okay, a year ago we had Miz and Morrison contend and challenge the title at Backlash. Let's give them a run. Maybe Miz and Morrison will be the saviors to the company. So as a result, after Drew suffers a legitimate serious injury and he gets taken out as well, we get the Miz and John Morrison as co-Universal champions. Meanwhile, despite the fact that the top stars in the company are gone, Retribution still can't manage to get any TV time. Okay, Mustafa Ali is cutting I Deserve Better promos every week on Talking Smack. It's becoming a running gag how many times this guy cuts these promos. He's complaining week after week on Talking Smack. But that considered, Kevin, then we get the Miz and Morrison's championship celebration. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah. But so what happens here, of course, you know, Miz and Morrison, they get this pyro-filled celebration. We have bald Miz. Lord only knows why Miz is bald. Keep in mind, in this timeline, Miz doesn't have a torn ACL, and Miz is still going strong, making appearances every single week, wrestling great matches, and cutting the same promo every single week. So he's doing a celebration with Morrison and Miz. John Cena makes his triumphant return to SmackDown. Vince McMahon succeeds in bringing a big-time mainstream superstar back. We get John Cena back. Cena cuts a promo just shredding Miz on the mic. He calls him a joke and a failed reality TV star, a mid-card wrestler at best. At best, mid-card wrestler. John Cena just goes off, talking about how he was embarrassed when Vince McMahon told him he had to lose to him at WrestleMania 27. You know, it's a shame that The Miz is the top guy in WWE. And yeah, then Cena implies that Vince rescued him from entrapment in China just to come back and wrestle The Miz. So yeah, then the next week on SmackDown, we got Cena versus Miz and Morrison in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Go ahead.
I'll take this one.
Go ahead.
So you got Cena versus Miz and Morrison. They put this in the middle of the third hour on SmackDown. This is like the first 3 hours SmackDown on Fox. We get Cena versus the Miz and Morrison in a handicap match. The face of the company for 15 years, taking on the current reigning co-Universal champions. It's a big-time match. We get about 15 minutes of great action featuring bald Miz punching Cena slowly for about 10 minutes. Finally, we get AJ Styles music hitting. The crowd goes crazy. Styles walks out carrying a Taiwan flag. This totally distracts Cena. From here, Miz does a roll-up of death on Cena for the 1-2-3, okay? Bald Miz pins Cena off a distraction from AJ Styles carrying and holding a Taiwan flag. Okay, this is unanimously just hated upon. WWE in the middle of the third hour on this SmackDown, they cut the feed. Kevin Dunn just ends the show right there. AJ Styles goes off script, pulls a Taiwan flag out, and Twitter goes crazy.
God, I mean, talking about mainstream media coverage, WWE would be all over CNN if AJ Styles is out a Taiwan flag. God. So yeah, then we get the next week, we get Becky Lynch returns. She makes a triumphant return. She has Seth Rollins as her manager. He's wearing the old man's man t-shirt. You know, get that classic shirt is back. And his gimmick now is that Rollins just goes around leaking Becky's opponent's DMs on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. Rollins leaks exclusive DMs where John Morrison is texting Maurice about the birth of their child, and Miz finds out. Because, you know, Becky, instead of returning and going after the WWE title, or the women's title, she embraces being called the man, and she goes after the Universal Championship. So she's now feuding with the Miz and John Morrison, and Seth Rollins reveals to us the next plot for Miz and Misses Season 4, which is John Morrison getting Maurice pregnant. So take that, Mike.
Yep, it's a pretty big shocking storyline. They announced Miz and Misses Season 4. This premieres around September of 2021. This whole plot of John Morrison and Maurice having the child after Miz had the vasectomy becomes a massive deal. This is groundbreaking. The two main event stars in the company are on this big Miz and Misses storyline. Like, this is groundbreaking. So
yeah, we get trailers for Miz and Misses. While I'm sitting there trying to watch Temptation Island on a Tuesday night, I get a trailer for Miz and Misses, and it's like the Miz being like, "Oh well, Maurice, you know my little mics, they haven't worked since I got the vasectomy. How could you be pregnant?" And Maurice is like, "Oh, I was crying. All the marriage fell apart. You don't love me anymore, and I have to sit through these commercials." I have to watch a 41-year-old reality TV star point to his testicles and refer to them as little mics.
And yeah, you see in that commercial, you see George Mizanin fishing with Dolph Ziggler, and they're like on top of each other. Oh, it's just awful. So that's the commercials for Miz and Misses. Then we transition to SummerSlam. So as a result of Roman's departure, Vince McMahon is still panicking. He needs any stars he can get. As a result, we get one WWE executive pitching to Vince McMahon, you should bring in Cardi B. Vince McMahon, despite not knowing who Cardi B is, throws a bag at Cardi B. Vince McMahon throws the Saudi money at Cardi B. Reportedly, Cardi B is making $15 million for this one SummerSlam appearance as the host. Okay, at SummerSlam, Cardi B performs the WAP. From here, we get Sean Ross Sapp demanding, and the whole wrestling journalist space, demanding that Vince McMahon apologizes immediately for outright just sexism and misogyny. Then, later on, we get Cardi B doing a promo segment. Do you want to take this one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she calls out Lacey Evans from their Twitter beef. And we get, you know, Lacey Evans comes out. Keep in mind, Lacey Evans is like 8 to 9 months pregnant at this time. Lacey Evans comes out with her baby daddy, Ric Flair. You got Ric Flair, Lacey Evans standing there. Ric Flair's like checking on her, like, "Oh, are you okay?" Rubbing her stomach, and he's like, "Whoo, I'm the man." You know, then you got Cardi B just screaming. She uses the N-word multiple times. And then, like, after she says the N-word, we cut to Vince immediately in Gorilla. Vince is screaming at his 51...
No, this would be a good idea. Oh, my God. Cut the feed. Oh, my God. Ah. Like...
Yeah, Vince is screaming at his 51-year-old son, Shane McMahon. Because, you know, Shane was trying to be hip and pitch Cardi B coming in, and he's screaming, "Oh, damn it. Oh, why did you pitch me to bring in this lady?" You know, then yeah, Peacock gets the old Chris Benoit treatment. Or, I'm sorry, SummerSlam gets the old Chris Benoit treatment from Peacock. You can't find any record of this SummerSlam. And any posting of this footage on social media or YouTube will get removed, get your account struck. It's just, you know, it's bad. Like, you can't even, like, if you even think about sharing anything from SummerSlam 2021, it's not going to be a good look for you.
Yeah, and then from here, we get WrestleMania SummerSlam 2021 closing with Becky Lynch squashing The Miz and John Morrison. This is all because of this friction and beef, because Miz finds out that Maurice is going to be pregnant, and this sets the scene for Season 4 of Miz and Misses. So yeah, Becky Lynch wins the Universal Championship, becomes the first ever female Universal Champion. The show closes, Stephanie McMahon's on the ramp clapping, she's like crying, you've got commentary all standing up, they're clapping. You've got Jimmy Smith on commentary just screaming. It's this big cataclysmic world-shifting event. Seth Rollins is literally like, you know, like on his hands and knees performing prayer and like bowing to Becky Lynch as she's like raising the titles, and this big emotional moment. Then the Raw after SummerSlam, we get Mick Foley appearing on Miz TV. Once again, Vince McMahon is panicking the fact that Reigns left. He needs names, so he gets Mick Foley on Miz TV, and we get a battered and broken, bald Miz, Kevin. A battered, broken, bald Miz is emotional following SummerSlam, okay? Miz, he finds out what's happened with John Morrison and the Maurice situation. Then Mick Foley is praising Becky Lynch. Okay, Kevin, take it from here.
Yeah. Mick Foley starts calling Becky the greatest superstar of all time, saying that she's like a million times better than Stone Cold and John Cena and Hulk Hogan. Like Becky Lynch, if WWE keeps pushing Becky Lynch, WWE's gonna have another boom period. They're gonna reach the same heights as the Attitude Era, and then Becky Lynch comes out, and Miz and Morrison run away. As soon as Becky like walks like up the stage, Miz and Morrison they just tremble in fear. They get out of there. You know, Becky comes in the ring. She's like acting all friendly, hugging Mick. Mick is like, "Oh, congratulations on your title," blah blah blah. And then it gets kind of weird when Becky picks up a microphone, and Becky starts inserting her dominance. She like they do like a dominatrix segment where they basically recreate the old Trish and Vince segment where Vince makes Trish bark like a dog. And Becky Lynch is like, yeah, this one's for all the women out there that have ever felt like less of a human being, and we're gonna get one back on the men. So Becky tells Mick to start barking like a dog and get on his knees. God, I mean, you've got like SJWs on social media be like, yeah, this is what we need. We'll take one for the women, and men take that. This is what it feels like. Blah blah blah. It's like this segment goes viral. I've got like non-wrestling fan friends sending me this segment, being like, what is this? What is this, bro? You got like Mick Foley, a hardcore legend, dude that lost all his teeth because he got chokeslammed by Undertaker, had like 2 different concussions in one night, is sitting there barking like a dog for Becky Lynch.
This goes viral on like Vox, and this is like all over like every woke SJW like account, and oh my god, this is like the most mainstream wrestling segment pretty much ever. Becky Lynch goes absolutely viral for this segment. Mick Foley is publicly shamed. Mick Foley deletes Twitter over and over again. His reputation never recovers from this. This is one of those segments which, on the dark side of Mick Foley, Bonafide Heat YouTube video in 3 years' time, this is the core segment that's talked about. Like, my god, this thing is just insane. So after that infamous segment which Kevin gets sent and I get sent on my real life friends on Instagram, after that segment, we get Becky Lynch in weeks coming announcing her intent to go after Bianca Belair and take the SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky Lynch is cutting belt collector promos and constantly referencing Kenny Omega. This creates TWRP making more inside job videos. We get inside job trending on Twitter. We get people saying that the Elite's the best stable in wrestling history and freaking out. All of this happens as a result of Becky Lynch referencing Omega and the belt collector gimmick in some promos. So from here, Kevin, we get Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair for the Universal Championship announced for Survivor Series.
Yeah, we get, title for title. Becky takes the women's title. She comes out after Survivor Series and she calls Kenny Omega out by name. She says, "Kenny Omega, I'm the real belt collector." And then, she teases everyone like, "Oh, let's see who the real face of wrestling is. Becky versus Omega, let's do it." And people actually think this match is going to happen. You have like all these people like, "Oh my god," like you said, it's an inside job. Oh my god, we're going to get WWE versus AEW. And it's just Becky Lynch flexing, And then in the build, because they tease that this match is going to happen on Christmas Day. And during the build, we get Becky Lynch showing exclusive video footage from Japan where Kenny Omega had a match with another man. They're both in their underwear, and there was some highly inappropriate things take place. Becky's showing the footage of this. We get Becky Lynch revealing footage of Omega with a blow-up doll. Becky revealing footage of Omega reading books to 4-year-olds. Like, all of this stuff gets revealed. Kenny Omega's made to seem like Satan in this storyline, and he's not there to defend himself. That's too good. Oh my god. You want to take over Brock Lesnar's return?
Yeah, sure will. So let's just shift gears back to SummerSlam, WrestleMania SummerSlam 2021 for a moment. So Brock Lesnar makes his much anticipated return Okay, Lesnar, he's standing in the ring by himself. He's, he grabs the mic and says, I want to fight somebody. Lashley's name's being chanted. And then WWE, Vince McMahon proceeds to send out the wrong black guy. He sends out R-Truth instead. And we get Vince McMahon literally shoving R-Truth out there. R-Truth literally cuts a shoot promo on some random cow on Brock Lesnar's ranch. Lesnar's looking at him like, why are you cutting a 3-minute promo on one of my farm animals? Like, what are you doing, Truth? And from here, we get a match made for SummerSlam between R-Truth and Brock Lesnar. Okay, it's a match that many have waited for a long time. This is a big-time match. Then, during the match, we get a ninja. Okay, do you remember the ninjas from the 24/7 title thing a year ago? The ninjas are back. One ninja takes their mask off, and this ninja is a bit chubby around the edges, and it's revealed to be Brother Love. Then Brother Love says, Daddy Brock, I love you! From here, we get JD from NY in his SummerSlam review going off. And I don't just mean a regular JD rant. I mean, genuinely has cardiac arrest mid-Raw review, Kevin. This guy, he's screaming so loudly that he nearly dies on stream. This becomes the most clipped moment in IWC history. This goes everywhere. You've got literally tabloids reporting WWE Angle kills fan. You get like the clip of JD like having cardiac arrest on stream. We see like this moment. It's more mainstream. It's more shocking. It's more disgusting than when Sean's View Entertainment showed his ZZ on camera. This thing is just, Kevin, this clip goes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we get like BuzzFeed and Vice articles where they're writing about how WWE should be ashamed of themselves for putting out a product that's so toxic that it caused a fan to have cardiac arrest. It's just, you get the people like interviewing Sami Zayn and Ali for news articles, and Sami Zayn is just questioning why he's still employed by the company. It's just disgusting. I can't believe the WWE just put out such a product that influences people so much. Yada yada. WWE takes more heat. And then speaking of heat,
you get legit like Nancy Grace interview with Chris Jericho about like what wrestling does to people. And Jericho's like crying in the interview. He's like 54. They get a meme of like crying Jericho. It becomes the most topical trend of 2021. You see Jericho literally sobbing in some interview as he's being interrogated on why wrestling kills people. And Jericho's sobbing. You see Kevin Nash in an interview, like saying that back in his day, he would have just beat the guy up backstage. And yeah, this goes everywhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, at SummerSlam, Vince McMahon is big on giving us dream matches with his WWE superstars. And, one match that people want is Edge versus Seth Rollins. So Vince McMahon, like the great promoter that he is, he gives it to his fans, pal. But there's a caveat. We get a ridiculous storyline. Because, WWE, they have to make up for ratings. Like, Edge and Rollins cutting promos where Edge is like, oh, you tried to break my neck, 7 years ago. And Rollins be like, I was the future back then. I did what I had to do. That's not going to sell tickets. So we have this segment where Seth Rollins is exposing Edge's DMs with Instagram models. And then, like, immediately after this segment, it's like, you see, Beth Phoenix just tweets out a broken heart. The next week on NXT, Nigel McGuinness is asking Beth Phoenix about this. Like, is that true? Is Seth Rollins' DMs real? And she's like crying and she walks off the commentary booth. And, you got Adam Cole like yelling at her and all this. Adam Cole's cutting these promos on Beth Phoenix, embarrassing her. And the IWC is jerking off to it, being like, oh my God, Adam Cole's the best heel in the company. Oh my God. And then, you want to take it from here with Edge?
Yeah, so legit, like on that NXT segment where you got Adam Cole in the middle of a promo, leaving the ring, going to the commentary table, and literally cutting a shoot promo on Beth Phoenix losing like custody of the kids, pretty much. We literally get Beth Phoenix. She leaves commentary crying. She goes and hugs the kids in the front row. It's a super emotional storyline. Then that SmackDown a week later, SmackDown opens with Seth Rollins coming out. Seth Rollins. The first thing we see on SmackDown is Seth Rollins in the middle of the ring holding a baby, and he's got like Edge's kids there, and you have Michael Cole going, "Oh my, this is very personal, and Rollins cuts a promo on Edge's fake baby, and it's this just cataclysmic storyline. The match culminates at SummerSlam. Edge and Seth Rollins, this big time dream match. Okay, but WWE, they couldn't just have Edge and Rollins have a regular match. This match You've got one of Edge's kids as the referee, one as a timekeeper, you got one as an outside enforcer. Okay, this thing, you got like during the match, Edge will spear Seth Rollins, and then Edge's like 4-year-old kid will look all conflicted as to whether they make the pinfall or not. And you've got Twitter going crazy about WWE using child actors and how this is so evil and WWE should be banned for this. But then you've got the anti-AEW crowd saying, well, AEW are exploiting Brody Lee Jr., so when WWE use kids, they're evil, but AEW's fine. It becomes this negative toxicity on Twitter. Eventually, we get Seth Rollins beating Edge, this big upset. Seth Rollins, based on using Edge's kids against him, Seth Rollins beats Edge in a big-time match.
Yeah, then we get a shoot interview with Ricochet, like 5 years into the future, where Ricochet's talking about how Edge's kids are real. Seth Rollins is really their favorite wrestler, and like that was a real moment when Edge's kids were conflicted about Seth Rollins because they love him so much.
We get legit this story on the Ricochet shoot interview with Sean Oliver in 5 years. He's talking about how in the locker room, like Edge walked in with his family one day, and his kids ran away from Edge and just went and hugged Seth Rollins, and how it was this cataclysmic moment. And then literally 3 days later, in a Twitter video, Edge is like, yo, in a Canadian accent, which I can't even do, yo, Ricochet, it's, steep of you to talk. All you did in the locker room for 3 years was throw it back on TikTok, so you should shut your mouth, mate. And then that's legit the interaction, so, yeah.
Yeah, then we get into the mid-card on SmackDown. Guess what? Big E and Apollo Crews are still feuding. Wow. It's been like 9 months now. So you have Commander of Z's. He injures Big E because, like his mentor Apollo, he drops the steel steps on Big E's calf, which then causes Big E to suffer a severe neck injury. So then we get Big E in the hospital, and we get these segments where like Apollo Crews and Commander of Z's, they go to visit Big E in the hospital. We see Big E like laid up watching like Daniel Bryan matches, trying to become a better in-ring worker. And Apollo Crews walks in. He's this big Nigerian baller now. He's got all this money and gold. He's like tipping the nurses and the security officers at the hospital. He walks in with this with security, and he starts reading bedtime stories to Big E. He's like trolling him. Big E's like mad. Apollo Crews is reading these stories that his grandpa used to read to him, and people are still freaking out about the cheesy Nigerian accent. It's just so bad. Then we get...
You get Dave Meltzer. You get Dave Meltzer calling this the most racist gimmick in the history of wrestling. And just every Wrestling Observer Radio, you get just him just hating on this. Meanwhile on SmackDown, we get Apollo Crews reading stories about Nigerian tribes and the war in Nigeria in whichever decade. Like, this becomes this big deal. Then, after 2 weeks of this, Big E, he's finally out of hospital. We get this one-on-one sit-down interview with Michael Cole and Big E. You got Michael Cole, like full meatloaf mode. He's like all choked up talking to Big E. Big E, he's got a big neck brace on. Like Michael Cole's asking a question like, Big E, will you ever be the same? And then Big E's like sobbing. He's in the neck brace. He's crying. Then we see a window smash, and Commander of Z's busts through the window. This 7-foot-tall, 335-pound man breaks into Big E's house and just beats him up, breaks Big E's leg. Okay, so Big E, he's just getting the ambulance and the gurney comes into Big E's house, and then load Big E onto this gurney, and then they stretcher him out again. So yeah, Crews and Big E will never stop feuding.
Facts. Yeah, now Big E's injured again, so then Apollo Crews begins a new faction. It's called the Comrades. He's got Shane Thorne and Ricochet and Commander of Z as his cronies. Shane Thorne and Ricochet, they both do their own fake Nigerian accents, and they have great matches there, John. So that
Twitter goes crazy. They hear Shane Thorne, this bogan Australian man, doing a Nigerian tribal accent. Shane Thorne gets totally cancelled. Black Twitter goes after Shane Thorne. It's just it's a train wreck just from top to bottom.
Oh my god, yeah. Then in the tag team division, we have the Dirty Dogs versus the Usos. They're in a feud that goes from SummerSlam all the way to WrestleMania 38. They're literally just feuding so much. We got all these segments. You've got Dolph Ziggler cutting "I Deserve Better" promos on Talking Smack. You got the Usos screaming at Bobby Roode, saying that Bobby Roode's just a TNA jobber.
But then, Kevin, something happens which it shapes wrestling in 2021 as we know it. Okay, Dolph Ziggler, He comes out in a segment in about September. Okay, Ziggler is trying to mock the Usos. He pretends he's Samoan in this segment. Okay, Ziggler's got tribal tattoos. He tries rapping. We get a backstage segment where Ziggler's all dressed up as though he's Samoan. He's taking a mugshot. From here, he gets absolutely just obliterated by social media. Ziggler's taken off TV for about 6 weeks. He's reprimanded. He's given a $50,000 legitimate fine because of this hateful just act. Okay, Ziggler's taken off TV. Twitter freaks out. This segment where Ziggler's, acting Samoan and, trying to be a gangster from Samoa, it goes over awfully, Kevin. It really does.
Yeah, this is just terrible. Ziggler, he gets suspended for 30 days from WWE TV. And then he comes back and he's the Usos and Ziggler and Rude are still having great matches almost every week. But they're having one-on-one matches. And then one day we get Ziggler on Talking Smack. He's doing like a Miz 2016 Miz Talking Smack promo where he's red in the face. He's screaming at Kayla Braxton at the top of his lungs about how Bobby Lashley doesn't deserve to be WWE champion and how Ziggler's worked his ass off for 12 plus years. He was a member of the Spirit Squad. And then people start freaking out about long-term storytelling because he mentioned all the Spirit Squad guys in this promo. He says that Lashley's only WWE champion because Brock didn't want to work Mondays. And he implies that Lashley is not a good champion. So then people call Ziggler racist. He gets canceled again. And it's just, it's just bad luck for Ziggler in 2021.
Oh, God. And then, now we move into a part of this which is, right in your wheelhouse, the Randy Orton and Matt Riddle rated RK Bro stuff. Now, for this one, Matt Riddle makes it his mission to make Randy high again. Okay, Matt Riddle has a T-shirt that says this. This goes viral for all the wrong reasons. They're showing clips.
Yeah, let me give a little context for this one. So, sometime around SummerSlam on an episode of Raw, WWE starts telling the story about how Randy Orton is like a changed man. We start seeing a different, more lovable, down-to-earth, realistic side of Randy Orton. He's cutting promos talking about how he's been sober for 10 plus years after he overdosed, and he regrets the things he did backstage and all the urban legends about him, and he just wishes that he was a better man, and from this day forward he's gonna be a better man. And then that's when we get Riddle. Riddle comes in and is like, bro, we gotta get stoned, bro, and stuff like that.
Make Randy high again, bro. Make Randy high again. So from here we see clips of Randy Orton. These clips surface. Matt Riddle somehow has found the video archives of some of this stuff. We see clips from 2005 with Randy Orton making people feel horribly uncomfortable backstage. I won't describe some of these things, but we see these uncomfortable clips. Finally, Kevin, at SummerSlam, the whole angle for the night, outside of the Cardi B thing, which breaks the internet, outside of that, we have a whole angle where we get Randy Orton high, Kevin. Walk us through this.
Yeah, we get if you've seen that 70s show, you know what I'm talking about. We get like Riddle and Orton, they're playing dominoes or cards or something, and then there's smoke in the background and they're giggling. Matt Riddle's like, hey bro, you want to go get some Taco Bell, bro? And then it's to be continued. So then on Raw the next night, we see we pick up with Orton and Matt Riddle. They arrive at a Taco Bell. They're driving, and then everything's going fine. They get their food, and then all of a sudden they're eating. Orton just gets up from the table and he walks to the cash register. He starts talking to the cashier, and I guess Orton doesn't like the cashier's tone, so he just starts beating the life out of this cashier. And meanwhile, Riddle's so stoned, he's just staring at a picture of Vince Russo for whatever reason, on his phone, just being like, bro, I want to have a bro off with Vince Russo, bro. And then, everyone freaks out. You got JD screaming, oh my god, WWE better not bring Vince Russo back, but that's neither here nor there. So Randy Orton's beating up this poor 24-year-old Taco Bell cashier who's just trying to make side money while he's in college. Randy Orton's beating him up, throwing him into the hot cheese. We get this just vile segment with Randy Orton. And then, you take it from here.
Oh my god. Yeah, so from here, Randy Orton gets reprimanded after this just despicable beatdown at SummerSlam of some 24-year-old cashier who's just trying to make some money. Randy Orton then shows up to Raw the next night, and we have the Raw general manager, who is Stephanie McMahon. Raw general manager Steph is screaming at Randy Orton. Like, the show opens with Stephanie McMahon just barking at Randy Orton, like, berating him. She's, like, slapping him over and over again. Randy Orton then smiles, because he's, hardly has a clue where he is, and then he walks away harmlessly. Okay, Randy Orton, he closes Stephanie McMahon's GM office door, and then Randy Orton turns and sees Riddle, and Riddle goes, "Hey, bro, I like bags, bro," and the segment ends. So, do with that what you will. That's how we open the Raw after SummerSlam. It's all going on now, WWE, pal.
Oh yeah, then we get in a couple weeks. You get Randy Orton and Riddle. They go to the mall. They're hanging out. They're bonding. They're buying some clothes. They're checking out the newest Jordan sneaker releases, and then they decide to go have some lunch at a Chinese restaurant in the mall. And they're walking by, and some guy offering samples goes up to Orton and Riddle, and Riddle like starts eating all the samples. And Orton's just like screaming at this waiter for bothering him. He hates to be bothered. He starts yelling at him, "No, I won't take a picture with you." Then all of a sudden, he just beats up the waiter. He punt kicks him. He RKO's him. He lays this waiter to waste. And then Riddle's like, "Randy, bro, why you mad, bro?" And then Orton gets canceled for being racist, for beating up a Chinese man at a Chinese restaurant for no reason. People try to claim it that Orton did this because he believes in the whole COVID situation in China. It becomes politically tied. Orton just gets canceled on Twitter. You have John Cena cutting a shoot video on Randy Orton. Like, Cena's like, "Yeah, this is why I took your spot, Randy. You showed us yet again, Randy." It's great. You got Cena chiming in, talking about how much he loves Taiwan, and he's cutting this promo in Mandarin. It's just so ridiculous. And then
you got AJ Styles tweeting a picture of him standing in front of a Taiwan flag, and this becomes the most politically charged just wrestling moment ever. And you've got literally in the background, you got a picture of like Akira Tozawa as like a restaurant extra looking all sad, and someone sees this and tweets like, "This is what WWE does to their different race employees," and then it becomes like this whole thing of cancel WWE. Vince McMahon's the devil. Cancel him now. Get him over with. Like, it becomes a huge deal, Kevin. So, yeah, coming out of that, I mean, my God, the cancellation, the political saga happens with COVID, Randy Orton and China. All this thing goes on through the fall, and then we get to Survivor Series time, Kevin. What happens here?
Yeah, so we finally get like a little bit of insight as to what's going on. So the Fiend and Randy Orton start feuding again. And this comes about because Orton's in the back and he sees Bray Wyatt's Bray doll. and like Bray Wyatt in a segment reveals that he's been possessing Orton. So that segment where Orton beats up the guy at Taco Bell, that's because Bray Wyatt he has like mind powers and can take over people's brains, and he starts possessing Orton to do crazy evil things to try to tarnish Orton's legacy for whatever reason. So after Orton finds this out, he sees Bray Wyatt's doll, he pisses on the doll, and then we get a Firefly Funhouse segment the next week where a 285-pound, 34-year-old middle-aged man is crying over his doll being pissed on. And then, you have Bray Wyatt reveals this brand new Bray doll, and he and Alexa Bliss are in the fun house because, the Lord only knows this is still going on. And the Bray doll and the Lily doll, they're going on play dates. They're going for ice cream. And then, there's a play date one time where, Bray Wyatt, Alexa Bliss, and the dolls are on, a double date. And they're like,
Yep.
Randy Orton just shows up out of nowhere and starts beating them up. And then, Bray Wyatt possesses Orton. Just makes Orton stop. He, makes Orton go buy them all ice cream.
Oh my God. And there's this one segment in January, early 2022. We see Randy Orton just in his house. They're trying to make this 2009 with the Triple H thing all over again. Orton's in his house, and there's he hears Fiend laughing, and Orton just he freaks out. Orton grabs a knife, and this is the modern day Pillman with a gun. Literally Orton grabs a knife, and then Kevin Dunn cuts the feed mid episode. This is the third time this has happened in a few months. Kevin Dunn literally cuts the feed mid episode of Raw. This absolutely breaks social media. Orton with a knife. Okay, this is one of the most edgy moments in wrestling history.
I mean, this is must-see TV. Imagine Randy Orton. They cut to Randy Orton's house. He's playing Xbox, playing WWE 2K20 with his kids, and then all of a sudden the Fiend's music starts going off, and Randy Orton just he's got headaches, his veins are popping out, He's doing anything to try to make this stop. He's like, I'm gonna get this damn Fiend. And he pulls out just like this butcher knife, starts running around his house. Like, yeah, that'd be must see.
And then legit the next week, we open Raw with the entire WWE roster standing on the stage. We got Vince McMahon in the ring, who at this point is like 77. He looks so frail. Vince is like crying, saying he's apologizing to the sponsors, saying that what Randy Orton did was just disgraceful. It was out of character. It was revolting. Then that same night, they show a segment of a WWE live autograph signing, which happens to just randomly be in Muskoka, Ontario, Canada, with Randy Orton taking pictures, signing autographs, typical autograph signing, what have you. Then the Bray Bray doll just possesses Randy Orton. So we get Randy Orton out of nowhere, RKOing some little kid's father, and then Randy Orton punts this kid's father, okay? And this segment, people freak out. Like, Randy Orton's just like, you know, his veins are popping out of his neck, his face is blood red, he's like naked just about, he's like screaming at some random kid's dad. And then this random kid's dad turns out to be some performance center trainee, and it just so happens that in 10 years' time, Kevin, when Randy Orton's like 53 years old, this random performance center trainee who he beat up in an autograph signing in Muskoka happens to beat him in a payback pay-per-view and win the WWE title in 10 years' time, and the IWC freaks out, saying long-term storytelling is the best thing they've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh my god. Jesus. Alright, so here we get more voodoo segments. You know, we see like segments of Bray and Alexa Bliss. They have a doll, like a Randy Orton voodoo doll, and they're like, you know, they're slicing it with an axe. They're throwing darts at it, like ripping out limbs, and they're just laughing. And like, this is what we see in the Go Home Raw for WrestleMania Royal Rumble 2022. And we get guess what? Another Randy Orton versus the Fiend match. So we get Orton and the Fiend. They're having a 9-minute work rate classic. You know, this is some of the best work rate Bray Wyatt's ever had. Randy Orton is on the verge of beating him when Bray Wyatt takes control of Randy Orton's mind, and he makes Orton grab a microphone, and Orton starts cutting a promo. He admits to taking a dump in a girl's bag backstage. He admits to all the terrible things he did, like shaking Ryder's hands after putting his hand down his pants. He admits to Bob Orton, his father, giving Mark Calloway an STD. He just, you know, he does all this, and then like somehow he just snaps out of it. He hits Bray Wyatt with a DDT from the second rope, and Michael Cole screams "Vintage Orton," and then Orton just pins Bray, and then he loses all his power, and WWE forgets the angle ever existed the next night on Raw.
Oh my god!
Then we get the freak out. We get the classic freak out where all the reviewers and people on Facebook, like all these old heads that Bray Wyatt's like the only thing that keeps them watching wrestling, are screaming about how the Fiend is being buried. We get the Fiend being buried part 100.
Right. And yeah, meanwhile, it's WrestleMania Royal Rumble season 2022. We got Daniel Bryan returning after a 6-month stint in PWG where he was being dropped on his neck and nearly died and got paralyzed several times.
Jesus.
Daniel Bryan returns to WWE. And Daniel Bryan cuts a promo saying, "I have my passion back. My ambition score is no longer the lowest ever. I'm not leaving this ring here. I'm not leaving it over there. I'm not leaving this ring anywhere. And at WrestleMania Royal Rumble, I will win the Royal Rumble match." So Daniel Bryan declares his entry. Wrestling Twitter freaks out, saying that this is the year Bryan needs to win the Rumble. This is the year. It's the 4th time we've had Daniel Bryan needs to win the Rumble talk at Rumble season. It's going absolutely crazy. But first, Kevin, we have to address a sudden Charlotte Flair, don't we?
Yes. So Charlotte Flair enters into a feud with Riddle because, you know, after Bray Wyatt possesses Orton to beat up like kids and fathers at autograph signings, Riddle decides that it's best to break off RK Bro. So Riddle's United States champion. This is sometime at the end of 2021, like November, December. We'll say Survivor Series. You know, we'll say Charlotte and Riddle have a match. But the build up to this match, we see Riddle. He creates a new toy. He creates Brodoms. And for many of you that are wondering what Brodoms are, that is Riddle's own version of condoms. And we see Riddle walking around backstage. He's going up to chicks. He's going up to like Mandy Rose. He's going up to Sonya Deville. And he's like, "Hey, Sonya, bro. When I beat Charlotte at Survivor Series, bro, we can celebrate with my Brodoms, bro." And Sonya Deville she goes off. She's offended, saying like how she's she's not straight. She doesn't like men, and she's infuriated that Riddle would dare hit on her and catcall her. And the cancellation of Riddle begins. Part 25 of Riddle being canceled. We get Sonya Deville out of character. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose out of character, cutting shoot promos on Twitter and Instagram where they're screaming about how WWE is misogynistic and Vince McMahon they hate Vince McMahon for allowing this segment to take place and, forcing Sonya Deville to do this. And, we get Riddle out there with donuts, bro. That's how they follow this up. Riddle goes back to walking around with bro nuts. He's like going around to Xavier Woods in the New Day offering bro nuts. We see Riddle in the hospital visiting Big E with his neck brace. And he's like, Big E, bro, I brought you some bro nuts, bro. And then he's like, I brought you something else, bro, but we can't show this on camera, bro. So he and Big E, they get high, and blah, 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 whatever. So then Charlotte Flair becomes U.S. champion. So that's great. And Charlotte Flair has the United States Championship for like 2 months. She does like the United States Open Challenge. We get the Charlotte Flair Open Challenge where she's calling out men and like NXT and indie jobbers answer this Open Challenge. They're basically ripping off Cody Rhodes' TNT Open Challenge. You got like Warhorse coming out there answering this challenge on an episode of Raw, like an hour and a half into the show, and then Riddle wins back his title. Riddle wins back his title, and then we get a live celebration, bro. Like after Riddle wins it back at the Royal Rumble, we get a live celebration the next night on Raw. We see Riddle in backstage. He's got his brodoms, and he's like walking around trying to find another girl to give his brodoms to. And then he ends up just eating donuts backstage because all the girls turn him down.
God, and there's one segment you didn't mention during this big Charlotte and Riddle storyline. They do a contract signing for the US title match at Tables, Ladders, Chairs, and Stairs 2021. They do the contract signing, and the contract signing is hosted by Jesse the Body Ventura. And so, literally, Jesse Ventura, he goes off mid-promo. Like, you got Matt Riddle talking about God knows what, talking about brodoms, and then Jesse the Body's like, my government has lied to me before, haven't they? Aliens invaded Area 51. And then, literally, once again, Kevin Dunn cuts the feed mid-show. Jesse Ventura is going on about conspiracy theories, 9/11 conspiracies. Charlotte Flair is like sobbing in the ring because this brings back awful memories of God knows what. She rushes off crying with the US title. Riddle's just, trying to advertise his brodoms. Like, this is one of the biggest just train wrecks in wrestling history. So that's that, Kevin. Then I guess we can move on to the Royal Rumble now, can't we, pal?
Oh, yeah. We get Charlotte Flair announcing her entry into the men's Royal Rumble because she wants to challenge Becky Lynch for the Universal title. Everyone thinks Daniel Bryan is going to win the Rumble because Daniel Bryan came back and cut the I am entering myself into the Rumble promo part 25 that you went over. So the internet thinks Bryan's winning the Rumble, but they'll settle for like Nakamura or Cesaro winning the Rumble because they're great workers. They'll settle for that, of course. So
you know who the dark horse is? The dark horse is Martin Luther Ziggler, who has spent the last 6 months in this race, tied storyline and race-driven controversy with Lashley and all this kind of stuff. Dolph Ziggler's the dark horse for the Rumble, no pun intended. And then, my God, we get to the Rumble, Kevin. This thing, it's chaos. You've got Ali coming out there and getting eliminated within 1.5 seconds, breaking the all-time record for fastest Rumble entry. We've got this is just an absolute fiasco. Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Charlotte Flair kicks Ali in the chest and he goes flying over the top rope.
Yeah, and then literally you have hashtag Ali Zoe's Better goes viral after about 7 guys from Wrestle Talk spam the hashtag on Twitter. Like, it's absolutely going ham. Then, after everyone enters, we get entry number 30. Now, the countdown clock goes down, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let me set the table for this one. So there's all this hype. You have like Sean Ross Sapp and Dave Meltzer reporting that WWE was in talks to bring back like a big
Kenny
star.
Omega. They're going to bring in Kenny Omega.
Yeah, they're going to bring in like Kenny Omega. It's going to be John Cena. It's going to be CM Punk. It's going to be so-and-so. And then, go ahead.
Yeah, so all this hype's, people are saying, oh my God, Becky Lynch has been dissing dissing Kenny Omega for months. They're going to have Kenny Omega come in number 30, win the Rumble, and face Becky for the title in the main event of Mania 38. That's what everyone's thinking is going to happen. And then we get the 29 entrants to the Rumble. You've got Daniel Bryan in there. He's been there for an hour. You've got Dolph Ziggler's there. You got Charlotte Flair, has a record of 15 eliminations in this Rumble. Charlotte is on a warpath. And and then the countdown clock hits for number 30. It hits 1, and then we hear "No Chance in Hell," and people are like, oh, what? Vince, and then Vince is coming out there strutting. He's in his wrestling gear. You just see, he looks like he's about 85 years of age. He just looks abnormal considering how muscular he is for being 77. And then he says, "Oh, damn it, at number 30 is my son Shane." And Shane comes out there, doing his money dance, and he skips down to the ring. Shane McMahon proceeds to eliminate Charlotte Flair with ease. And this creates this big controversy. Oh my God, Charlotte eliminated all my favorite indie guys, and Shane eliminated her like she was nothing. I'm so offended. And it becomes this big scandal. Literally, Kevin, he eliminates Ziggler. It's Brian. Kevin, Shane McMahon is the Rumble God, pal.
Yeah, so Shane McMahon, it comes down to Shane and Daniel Bryan as the final two, and everybody's freaking out oh my God, yeah, Shane McMahon's gonna put over Daniel Bryan. Finally, Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble. We get what we want. Oh my God. And everyone's just they're you got the pictures of Daniel Bryan with the WWE title going viral on the internet, and as Shane and Daniel Bryan, they're having this epic standoff, and then Shane McMahon, Kevin Nash style, they do he fakes a finger poke of doom type thing where he tells Bryan, go ahead, throw me over the top, I'll let you have your moment. I made sure that you would triumph it because you're my friend, Daniel. And then Daniel Bryan, he thinks, Shane's going to let him throw him over the top. Daniel Bryan goes to eliminate Shane, and Shane double crosses him and just sidesteps him and flings Bryan out the way. And yeah, Shane McMahon wins the Royal Rumble. We celebrate with people throwing hot dog wrappers and soda cups at Shane. That's how the show goes off the air. Vince and Shane are crying and hugging each other. You got Stephanie McMahon out there. It's this big family celebration. Vince McMahon just screwed everyone, thinking that Daniel Bryan was finally going to win.
Yeah, you got videos surfacing on Twitter of Daniel Bryan fans burning down the houses and breaking things and causing civil unrest in their towns just because Daniel Bryan got eliminated in a fake match. So literally, this is just an absolute chaos. There's a riot outside the Royal Rumble, outside the building. You have these just psychopaths hunting down Shane McMahon's car and trying to just destroy his vehicle so he can't get home. It's just this big scandal. Shane McMahon wins the Rumble. Bryan fans are literally wanting to murder him for real. It's a huge debacle. Then we see a Twitter video leak. A Twitter video leaks, as is the case with a lot of this. And the video has Drew McIntyre. There's a video of Drew McIntyre at a nightclub without a mask. Drew McIntyre is not socially distancing, and Drew gets just totally cancelled. Drew McIntyre becomes the biggest heel overnight because this video of him in a nightclub in Glasgow surfaces, and he didn't have a mask on, and he wasn't socially distancing, Kevin. This is bigger than Ben-Hur. This is the biggest scandal in wrestling since the last biggest scandal in wrestling. Where does Drew go from here?
Yeah, this is an incredible scandal. You see, because keep in mind, McIntyre's been gone because he got injured in a match with Miz and Morrison way back when. So he's been gone for 6-7 months off of TV. He finally comes back after this. He comes back as a nuclear heel. He's coming back. Of course, there's full crowds in the audience. And, of course, everyone's safe and socially distanced in the crowd wearing their mask. And Drew McIntyre is shaming people for wearing masks. He's coming out there yeah, you see, I don't believe in the pandemic. I had COVID and I survived it. Look at this, blah, blah, blah. And he announces that he's going to challenge Becky Lynch for the Universal title at Fastlane. And that's our big program leading into WrestleMania season, is the Drew McIntyre versus Becky Lynch feud.
Yeah, this is a big one. But in the meantime, until we get to that, Kevin, there's a big angle on SmackDown because, this is WrestleMania season. All the stars are coming out. Even Vince McMahon reaches into the checkbook, and after the Cardi B fiasco, Vince McMahon goes, "Now let's try a different celebrity." So WWE proceed to get Jake Paul going on to SmackDown. This is a big deal. It really is. And then, you take this from here.
Yeah, so Jake Paul, he's promoting his boxing fight with UFC god Jorge Masvidal. Jake Paul comes out. He's cutting this promo on Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal, of course, isn't there. But Jake Paul's cutting this promo, and he's calling Masvidal a pussy and all this. He calls him a pussy multiple times. He's like, "Yeah, Masvidal, you suck. I'm better than you at boxing." Blah, blah, blah. They're WWE, they're forgetting to bleep out. They just can't bleep out him saying the P word multiple times. So then, we get we get this segment, like everyone thinks Jorge Masvidal's not there, but Jorge Masvidal runs out. He gets in Jake Paul's face. They're both cursing at each other. Just every expletive under the sun you could possibly name, they're saying. We cut backstage to Vince screaming at Triple H and Stephanie, like, how dare they bring in Jake Paul, blah, blah, blah. And then we get Bray Wyatt is here, the Fiend. He makes his triumphant return to WWE television, and he just starts beating up Jake Paul for no reason. Just beating up Jake Paul. Jake Paul's scared. Jake Paul's running into the crowd. Bray Wyatt's chasing him. It's this huge fiasco. We get Jake Paul and the Fiend at WrestleMania after this.
Yeah, and then we legit get these shoot videos of Jake Paul calling wrestling fake on his Twitter, saying that he just, he hates WWE. Vince McMahon can go kill himself. Like, Jake Paul is just going off on Twitter. It's just...
Yeah, we get this Firefly Funhouse at WrestleMania, Jake Paul and the Fiend, where like we see Bray Wyatt going through Jake Paul's life. We see clips of Jake Paul partying like 2 months into the pandemic in 2020, like having like 10,000 people, like not 10,000, like 1,000 people at a house party with no mask on, nothing like that, and like clips of Jake Paul on live to like on talk shows calling COVID a hoax, blah blah blah. It's just God.
Yeah, we see legit like Jake Paul in the locker room after Logan Paul's just lost to KSI at the Staples Center. We see Jake Paul like crying, and then we see Jake Paul like present day getting so angry he's trying to punch the Bray doll, and Twitter surfaces of videos go viral of Jake Paul trying to punch a little Bray doll, and this just ends Jake Paul's career. Masvidal laughs off the fight. The fight never goes ahead. It's just this big ordeal at WrestleMania. But Kevin, we're getting sidetracked from the main storyline here. The main storyline here is Drew McIntyre challenging Becky Lynch for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania Fastlane 2022. Kevin, walk us through this match.
So basically how this match plays out, you've seen Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from SummerSlam 2014. Well, Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch, they look at that match and they say, hold my beer. And Drew McIntyre, the bell rings, and he right off the bat hits a Claymore kick on Becky. He's like yelling just misogynistic things at her, like screaming like, "Oh, women can't be champion. This is a man's sport." Like in the middle of the match, he's screaming at her, and then after the first Claymore kick, Becky's clearly down and out. McIntyre goes to pin her. The ref counts to 2. He lifts Becky's shoulder up, and then he just he picks her up. He does another Claymore kick. Is screaming more misogyny at her. The crowd is just booing. McIntyre picks her up again, another Claymore kick. He brings out a chair. He does the concerto. And then he picks her up again for a 4th Claymore kick. And then he pins her 1, 2, 3. And yeah, now we got McIntyre as your Universal Champion. And it's safe to say McIntyre is the hottest heel that wrestling has seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, TMZ runs with this. They call this a darker moment for wrestling than the Benoit tragedy that becomes this huge deal. This is just Drew McIntyre is the worst person on earth. People saying that, WWE went way too far with this. Everyone hates McIntyre, but, this is the wrong kind of hate. Drew should not have been doing this. People getting genuinely triggered. Then the SmackDown after Fastlane, this show draws about 4 to 5, maybe 6 million viewers because of what's happened. Because of TMZ, because of all this mainstream coverage. Drew comes out to open the show. He cuts an off-script shoot promo about how women aren't meant to be world champion in a wrestling company, and how Becky Lynch, quote, looks like a man. This is what Drew says. So from here, Becky's stands proceed to riot. We get Becky Lynch stands doxing Drew McIntyre's house. We get some Becky Lynch stand literally burning down Drew McIntyre's house for real. This is just one of the most personal storylines in wrestling history, Kevin. My God.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, Drew McIntyre's cutting this long-winded, pipe bomb-like promo. He's talking about how he couldn't believe, he was disgusted when Mick Foley cucked out for Becky Lynch on live TV. It made him sick to his stomach that a woman was a man's champion, a universal champion. And he starts getting political and just making all these statements about women, and it's like, yeah, it's just ugly. And then the WWE eventually they cut the live mic, and Drew McIntyre is just like, "Oh, you're trying to silence me, man." And all this, it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. So then the next week on SmackDown, we get Shane McMahon is in the ring with Stephanie and Triple H. Shane talks about just how disgusted he was by Drew's words from last week. And, you know, Shane is, like, going all in, just counting Stephanie's praises about the women's evolution. Stephanie's screaming about Drew McIntyre. You got Triple H being like, I love women, especially one that look like men, and Australians, Then, you know, Triple H is cutting a promo. Like, he goes off the plan. It's just, like, a random promo. He starts talking about how the Iconics got released. He's gone on a tangent. Stephanie McMahon screams at him to stop talking, and yeah, blah, blah, blah. Then we get Drew McIntyre comes out. He confronts the McMahon family. And McIntyre is like, well, if you don't like it, then fire me. And Stephanie McMahon starts to fire him. And Drew McIntyre just open hand slaps Stephanie McMahon in the middle of the ring. And Shane and Triple H are like chasing after McIntyre. McIntyre escapes. He runs through the crowd.
Then some Becky Lynch fan runs up behind, like, king hits Drew McIntyre, and Drew just turns around and throws him 15 feet. It's the most personal, real-life storyline wrestling's ever seen. It's the most politically tied storyline. Drew's just... He goes from one level of stardom to another. You've got mainstream organizations are covering this, saying that, you know, wrestling's gone to the dark side. This is not what wrestling should be. This being said by people who don't even watch. Like, it's this big scandal.
Oh,
then... after that Triple H promo you mentioned where he was ranting about, like, the Iconics and hashtag Billy Kay deserves better, became trending on Twitter. And after all of that, Kevin, the next week, when Drew McIntyre is the biggest thing in wrestling, he's the biggest superstar, we get Raw opening with Drew McIntyre arriving to the arena. He walks through the locker room. He knocks over, like, 5 security guards. Then he goes to the women's locker room. Okay, Drew McIntyre goes to the women's locker room. He opens up the door, and he's throwing eggs just at random women in the locker room. Okay, Twitter's erupting. Drew picks up an egg. He shows it to the camera. It has $1 on the egg. And then Drew sees Natalia and throws the $1 egg at Natalia. Okay, this is some great long-term storytelling to WWE on Fox's poll and thing a year ago. Kevin, this is some magical long-term storytelling.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then Drew McIntyre, he's walking around. He goes into the... You know, he's going into, like, the other locker, the men's locker room, and he's got, I don't know, like, Karrion Kross gets in Drew McIntyre's face, like, oh, that's not cool, bro, the way you're acting, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Karrion Kross tries to stop McIntyre. McIntyre just, like, you know, he's like, you don't want to mess with me, mate. And he starts beating up Kross, throwing him into the locker, just embarrassing him in front of everybody. And then, like, security comes in to try to separate this. McIntyre beats up the security guards. McIntyre runs into the McMahon office, and he sees Vince. He and Vince have a face-to-face. McIntyre throws the Universal title at Vince's head. Vince ducks. Vince charges at McIntyre. McIntyre shoot-punches Vince McMahon in the jaw, knocks out Vince McMahon. Triple H comes in, gets his hands on McIntyre, throws him to the ground, like R-Truth style. We get McIntyre gets arrested. A bunch of cops come in. We got Triple H's beating up Drew McIntyre while cops are arresting Drew McIntyre. And again, long-term storytelling there, John. And yeah, the show, the Raw goes off the air with McIntyre getting thrown into a cop car. You got just dozens of cops out there. McIntyre is being arrested. Stephanie McMahon is screaming. Stephanie McMahon has a black eye from that slap from last week from McIntyre. She's screaming at him, saying, "This is what you deserve. You're never going to be in my ring again." And yeah, it's just like, this is good legit TV right here that we're writing.
This Raw, this show, this guy's absolutely viral. By this point, there's like 7 million people watching each week to see what's going to happen next. The McMahon family, Drew McIntyre, what horrible incident's going to happen next. That SmackDown that following week, we see Drew McIntyre throughout the show in a jail cell, and Drew's interacting with prison inmates, and it's some great TV. Then the next week's Raw, Kevin, this one, my God, Drew McIntyre shows up to the arena. He's carrying a trash bag, okay? Drew McIntyre, fresh off the news that Tamina Snuka has been released from WWE in WWE's latest cleanouts. Drew McIntyre shows up. He sits in the middle of the ring and says, "Tamina, this one's for you." And he puts the trash bag down and just walks off. And this proceeds to break Twitter once again. The woke Twitter is freaking out. You've got Samoan Twitter freaking out. Everyone's losing it. Drew McIntyre is the most hated man alive, just about. He's more hated than the Velveteen Dream. He's just despised. It is amazing television what he's doing.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. So then the next week, Stephanie McMahon forces Drew to go to therapy and address his actions. So he's in the human resources department in WWE's corporate office, like speaking to different doctors, and they're trying to figure out why he's acting the way he is. And he's just like screaming at the doctors, just like I don't want to be here. He's talking about how he has to prepare for his WrestleMania headlining match with Shane McMahon. Like that's the WrestleMania 38. The big headline is Shane McMahon versus Drew McIntyre. And he's going on about how he has to prepare for this match. He doesn't have time to be in anger management. He starts going off the cuff, and he starts saying, he starts talking to the therapist, like, don't you know this is wrestling? This is fake. I'm playing a character. And then everyone cancels Drew McIntyre again for outing wrestling on live TV. And McIntyre's like, yeah, I'm just being a character. Like what? Why am I here? I'm doing my job. This is what I get paid to do. I'm acting. My name's not Drew McIntyre. And then the HR person is like baffled. They're like they think he's crazy. And you got people on the internet freaking out. Drew McIntyre just ruined wrestling for good.
Yeah, and then during that week, on like Wednesday, this is like the second final or the penultimate week before WrestleMania, that Wednesday, a diss track comes out called F. Vince McMahon, written by Drew McIntyre and Jake Paul. Okay, this thing, they're just abusing Vince. They're calling Vince every bad word under the sun. This goes viral. You've got like Rick Ross featuring in this diss track. It's this huge deal. You got a McIntyre and Jake Paul diss track. Masvidal proceeds to just bury this thing on Twitter. Wrestling is more relevant than it's ever been, Kevin. And then we move into the final Raw before WrestleMania.
Yeah, here we go. The go-home show, if you will there, John. We get, Shane McMahon's coming out, cutting a basic babyface promo. Oh, I'm gonna stop the evil McIntyre. I'm gonna stand up for my family. He punched my sister. He punched my dad. He beat up my brother-in-law, Triple H. Shane, he's being good guy Shane. Superhero, our hero Shane McMahon is gonna put an end to the evil Scotsman, Drew McIntyre's reign. And Shane goes on like a 5-minute tirade about how Drew McIntyre disrespected the business by calling himself a character and admitting that wrestling's fake on live TV. And he's just, Shane is going in on McIntyre. And then Drew comes out, and he comes out with, like, I don't even know.
Jake Paul. They come out, and they're set to perform the Vince McMahon diss track in front of Shane McMahon. You've got literally you got Rick Ross out there. They're ready to perform. Then in the ring, you have Stephanie McMahon screaming, trying to silence this by just screaming over the top of it. Triple H is holding her back. The McMahon family's in the ring. Vince is there pissed. Vince, damn it, like Vince is going off. And you got Drew McIntyre with Jake Paul. They start performing the diss track. Then we have literally the McMahon family rushing at Jake Paul and Drew McIntyre. And Kevin, the go-home Raw before WrestleMania 38 ends, with literally the whole locker room out there trying to separate this. The biggest brawl in wrestling history. You got Vince McMahon punching employees. You've got Drew McIntyre beating up human resources staff members. Just an absolutely incredible scene to close Raw.
Yeah, and then on SmackDown there, John, we get like the go-home show. This is it. This is the end-all be-all for WrestleMania 38 for SmackDown. Shane McMahon again is addressing the situation. This time it's just Shane. He's like, oh, it's just gonna be me. I'm not hiding behind my family. He calls out McIntyre man to man. Look, we're gonna have a confrontation, and this might end badly. Whatever. He calls out McIntyre. McIntyre comes out. He comes out New Jack style. He's got like a toaster. He's got just all this stuff. And he starts beating up Shane McMahon, hitting him with kendo sticks. He staples his forehead. Starts running a cheese grater across Shane's face. Shane is just being beaten into a bloody pulp by ECW Drew McIntyre. Shane is bleeding all over the place. It's just sad to watch. Like, people feel genuinely bad for Shane. They want to see McIntyre just get his ass kicked. And then you get Vince coming out. Vince, is screaming. Stephanie McMahon is screaming. Triple H is holding Stephanie back. Vince is running out to the ring. He pushes Drew off of Shane. He's covering Shane. He's like, hit me instead. Vince is crying. Shane is bleeding. Stephanie and Triple H are crying. This whole big scene. McIntyre looks like the evil character in a movie. It's insane. And this is how we go into WrestleMania. And then the question becomes, in the next 48 hours, is Shane going to be in fit condition? We get medical updates on Shane. And then, we get to WrestleMania 38 there, pal.
Yeah, we get to WrestleMania, and after the events of that awful, shocking beatdown, it's deemed on WrestleMania night that Shane McMahon is not fit to compete. So Drew McIntyre comes out in the middle of the ring. He's he says something misogynistic to the ring announcer. Then he says, just give him a championship. Give him a title belt. So Drew's just demanding it's given the title. And then the McMahon family walks out there. Shane, he's all destroyed. Stephanie's emotional. Triple H is like grinning. You got Vince McMahon pissed. Triple H says, Drew McIntyre, always have a plan B. And out comes Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross comes down, and we get an epic main event between Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross, Kevin.
Yeah, that's how the show goes off the air. That's just what we wanted. Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross. And yeah, McIntyre keeps his belt. And I guess that has been what if Roman Reigns leaves WWE in 2021.
Yep. I think that's, a lot to digest there. Especially with Drew.
Yeah. I mean, could you imagine, like, let's reflect on this for a second. Like I said it in the video, but like if WWE if they did what we put down, but like a little bit of a watered down version, that could be a very entertaining segment. Like, you know, like if they just had like McIntyre squash Becky Lynch and like, I mean, come on, like he'd be a top heel, bro.
Bro, like just like they can just easily do this. Like wrestling's dead anyways. Like have fun with it. Like do something. Like this stuff would be, especially the second half of this video, especially some of this stuff. If they had Drew McIntyre and Jake Paul do a diss track called F Vince McMahon, I mean, come on. Like, seriously, that'd go ham. But no, don't have fun with it. Just have Drew fight Lashley every week for 9 months. Like, honestly.
Yeah, instead if Jake Paul came into WWE, he would have some corny segment, some overproduced segment where he's at, like, Miz TV, and you'd have Miz making fun of him for boxing a celebrity.
Yeah, and then Miz saying, "Oh, Jake, I don't think you can beat this random ex-MMA fighter in a boxing match." Then Jake Paul's like, "Yeah, I can," and that's legit the segment. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, this was too much fun. It really was.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like half the stuff we have here, WWE would get canceled for. Like McIntyre just
cancellation means activation, Kevin. They get that many eyeballs on them for some of this stuff. My God, the Drew stuff. If they did this, and they did this the way we did, Raw ratings come WrestleMania season in March next year would be upwards of 5s to 8s, millions. Like people would tune in droves to see what Drew would do next. Yeah, like, my God.
Imagine the segment where McIntyre calls wrestling fake on TV. That would be so funny. Oh my God.
God.
I could just picture people freaking out. You know, like you'd have people like 45-year-old men.
Oh, Kevin, I thought of an alternate ending of how we actually should have ended this.
Yeah.
Instead of Karrion Kross, you have the McMahon family bring out Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns comes back as the all-encompassing babyface, and we have Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre in the main event of 38 for the title.
Yeah, I mean, we could just record that if you want. Record an alternate ending.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just say that's the ending. I mean, honestly, yeah, they bring out Roman Reigns after 10 months on the sidelines, and Roman Reigns has a war with Drew McIntyre in the main event. There you go.
Yeah, all right. I'm still recording, so I'll just edit that in.
Yep, easy. Legit, yeah. What an ending. What a WrestleMania. What a booking. And yeah, wow. That's great.
The tribal god, Roman Reigns, triumphs. So yeah, that's it for Elite Heat this week, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Peace.